There were a lot of great DSLRs released in and around 2007. Cameras that I've covered on this channel, like the Pentax K10D, Canon 40D, Nikon D80, and more. And as good as they are more or less the same camera. But one DSLR released during that time period stood out as being totally different, for better or worse. Welcome back to the Snappiness YouTube channel, where I like to photograph with old cameras like this, the Sigma SD14. Yes, you heard that right, Sigma, the one that is well known for making high quality third-party optics for your favorite brands. They also make digital cameras and have since the beginnings of digital photography. But instead of taking the easy way out and using the same sensor technology as everyone else, they decided to use their own exclusive sensor based on a technology dubbed Foveon. The Foveon X3 sensor was introduced to the world in the SD9 back in 2002, and my SD14 is a continuation of that camera and sensor. And I actually also have the SD10, so look forward to content on that camera as well. Now, I'll drop a link in the description to a nice, concise article on Foveon sensors. But the gist of it is that instead of using a color filter array, the sensor is measuring color by the depth the light reaches in the sensor. This allows the camera to skip the problems that color filter arrays introduce. In practical terms, you get a file that ends up looking pretty different than any other camera. And indeed, that is the best and worst part of this camera. And it was the most difficult part of this camera to get used to for me. At first, I was unsatisfied with the colors of the files, finding them really tough to work with. But as time went on and I became better acquainted with the camera, I came to really appreciate the potential in the aesthetic. It just takes a bit more work than you might be typically used to. The camera itself is a fairly basic DSLR. There's a dial to turn the camera on and select the shooting mode, a second dial to select manual or priority modes. There's not much in the menus themselves. Most settings are changed by holding this function button and rotating the dial under the shutter button to the corresponding value. While the camera body isn't the most comfortable DSLR from that era, it isn't terrible, and it offers a good size grip. The build feels durable and overall is very well built. One of my absolute favorite things about the Sigma SD14, and something that makes it unique beyond the Foveon X3 sensor, is that once you take off the lens, you have access to a removable hot mirror filter. This is the filter that blocks infrared light from hitting the sensor, and in virtually every other camera it is affixed directly to the sensor, but not here. This means that with a quick flip, you are now capturing infrared light. This is less of a practical feature and more of a nerdy one, but the nerds here will appreciate this with me. It's dang cool. I can't bring up a Foveon sensor without talking about its high ISO performance. This camera is a base ISO camera only, as the noise degrades the image quality heavily at anything above it. You need to know this before you buy this camera or other Foveon cameras, and plan for it when you go out to shoot. But trust me, you really can get used to it. It just takes a different mindset than you may be used to with digital photography. Okay, I love this camera, but it's hard to recommend it nowadays. For one, their relative rarity has caused prices to shoot up beyond what I think you should pay for one. But also, even if you do find one for a deal, the camera is slower than the competition, can't shoot at higher ISOs without making a mess, and produces files that take a lot of work. now that I have that big warning out of the way, and I really mean it, I will tell you that this camera has grown on me a lot. Once I learned to slow down in the process and get to know it a little bit better, it has rewarded me with some really nice images. Sigma cameras have a fascinating history, and the amazing thing is they are still going. Just as last month I read news that a new generation Foveon sensor is planned to be released later this year or next. I love that this niche system has a dedicated enough following to keep moving forward, and that Sigma hasn't dropped it. I'm a big fan of the underdogs and camera companies that are doing things differently, as you probably can guess. And I think it's super cool to have one of the cameras that started this all. Thanks for watching. Go out there and photograph with whatever camera you have now. Get some great photos. Share them on the Snappiness forum link in the description. And until next time, happy snapping.